Florida is entitled to see a judge the day following their arrest. The initial purpose of this hearing is to determine whether there is probable cause for the arrest itself. That means whether there are reasonable grounds to believe that a crime may have been committed and that you may have been the person who committed the crime. There are certain things that we have to accomplish today. The first is to make sure you understand the reason or reasons for the arrest. Second is to make sure you receive a copy of the charging document. In your case, it would be an arrest report so that you and or your attorney can prepare for a trial of your case. Third is to make sure you clearly understand all of the rights that you are guaranteed as a citizen of this United States. First of all, you have the absolute right to have your case tried by a jury of your peers. 6 individuals will be chosen to decide whether you're guilty or not guilty of the offense or offenses as alleged. Second, you have the right, if you do not agree with the decision of the jury, which is called a verdict, to appeal that decision to a higher court for perhaps a better or more favorable result or outcome. Third, you have the right to be represented by an attorney at all stages of the proceedings, including throughout your trial and on all of your appeals. You have the right to hire an attorney of your choice. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you by the state of Florida. Fourth, you have the right to remain silent, which means that your trial, if you choose to say absolutely nothing, it cannot be held against you by the jury or by any court. Fifth, you have the absolute right to confront your accusers, which means you or your attorney will have the right to cross-examine the state's witnesses and try to impeach their evidence so that they cannot prove the case against you. And you have the right to bring in your own evidence and your own witnesses. And if your witnesses will not come voluntarily, the judge assigned to your case can force them to come through the subpoena power of the court. You also have the right to reasonable communication with your family, friends, and attorney, and if you ask to do so, or have a means to do so, reasonable means will be provided for you. Finally, you have the right to be presumed innocent, which means you cannot be found guilty of any charge or any crime unless and until the state of Florida can prove beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt each element of that charge against you. Do you have a question about any of these rights, Mr. Zimmerman?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand all those rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, good. The next thing we have to accomplish is to make sure you understand when your next court proceeding is going to be. You are responsible for any information you are given here in writing today or told here today, especially if it involves dates, times, and places. If you are here for your next scheduled court hearing, I can almost guarantee that the judge assigned to your case will issue a warrant for your arrest and you're going to wind up back where you started today. The final thing we have to do today is to discuss bond and reasonable conditions of bond based upon the offenses as alleged. And so, Mr. Zimmerman, do you understand that the reason for your arrest is that it has been alleged that there was a domestic violence-related aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and a domestic violence-related battery and criminal mischief? Do you understand that?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you receive a copy of the arrest report, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I did as well. I do find probable cause for all 3 allegations and for the arrest. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you on all 3 of these criminal charges, Mr. Zimmerman. Your next court appearance will be in arraignment with Judge Rex Fiedler on January 7th, 2014 at 1:30 p.m. in courtroom 1A. Now we'll discuss bond and reasonable conditions of bond. I will hear from the state first.
Your Honor, Thursday, Munoz from the state of Florida.
Okay.
Okay, well, Your Honor, we had the opportunity to speak with the victim in this case. She is in fear for her safety, and she would like that there be no contact and no return. We do have 2 exclusionary zones to include 1308 Topfield Court, Apopka, that's Topfield, and also an additional address of 1010 Sand Lake Road in Altamont Springs, Florida. In addition, Your Honor, we're requesting no possession of firearms or ammunition, and that any new address that you used to live at also be weapon-free. We're also requesting that you not be allowed to travel outside the state of Florida, and also to relinquish his passport.
Okay.
I do look, Your Honor, I'd like, if I could just put some other things on the record. The victim had indicated that there was a prior domestic violence incident that occurred approximately a week lose. We feel that the victim's safety and community safety is of paramount concern, and at this time, Your Honor, the state is requesting $50,000 bond to ensure his return to court.
Okay, well, I'm not going to go anywhere near that, but, Mr. Downing, would you like to make some argument on behalf of your client?
Yes, sir. On behalf of our office, Mr. McGarrell would like to address the court as to that issue, Judge.
Good afternoon, Judge. Daniel McGarrell on behalf of Mr. Zimmerman. Regarding the issue of bond, our client doesn't have an opposition to some of the other conditions mentioned of the no return to the address, no weapons, and not having any contact with this particular person. Judge, pursuant to the bond schedule of Seminole County, Mr. Zimmerman should be set at bond at $4,900. He is a longtime Central Florida resident. He does not have any failure to appears. He does not have any prior criminal convictions, and he does have significant ties to the community. Mr. Zimmerman would have some locations in the Central Florida area where he would be able to stay at that does not involve having any contact with that particular person. So our client is asking for a $4,900 bond in this matter.
All right. Mr. Zimmerman, do you still have any personal possessions? Because I read your arrest report. It seemed like you were getting ready to move out of the Topfield court address in Apopka. Do you still have any possessions there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set the bond in this case at $9,000, which is $8,900 on the aggravated assault and $50 for each of these misdemeanors for a total of $9,000 with a numerous special conditions. The first is that you cannot return to 1308 Topfield Court in Apopka other than you are permitted to go back one time if it's in the accompaniment of law enforcement to obtain any personal possessions you may need or want, but you will have to have law enforcement accompany you there.
Yes, sir.
Second, you cannot go to 1010 Sand Lake Road in Altamont Springs. Third, you cannot have any contact at all with Samantha Scheib, Scheibe. And in case you weren't aware, Mr. Zimmerman, no contact means not in person, not by phone, not by mail, not by fax, blog, tweet, Facebook, no contact at all. Next, no possession of any weapons or ammunition while you're out on bond, and that's in part for her safety and in part for your own safety, it may seem like. And I am going to order the impact monitoring device to keep you away from her and away from those particular locations just to make sure there aren't any further altercations between the two of you. As far as the passport, did you ever get your passport back after the last trial?
I'm not sure, Your Honor. My former attorney may have it.
Okay. I'm not going to worry too much about your passport, but I will put on as a condition no traveling outside of the state of Florida while you're out on bond. And those are the special conditions that I believe to be reasonable, and I think that's a reasonable amount based upon the additional allegation of a previous unreported, intentionally battery by strangulation as being the reason for the increase in the bond amount. I'm not increasing your bond because anything's happened in the past, because as far as I'm concerned, this is a brand new case.
Yes, sir.
So,
Thank you, Judge.
we're going with the increased bond, those special conditions, and the direct will see you back on January 7th, 2014. We did take your case first in order to accommodate the folks in the press, so I want to be able to get out there in a timely fashion. Is Madam State Attorney, anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, Your Honor, we were requesting that if you can modify the one return with law enforcement, and if you can indicate that a third party actually go to the residence to retrieve the belongings instead of him going to the actual residence with law enforcement, I believe that would ensure more safety for the victim.
Well, that would be wise anyway, because I think one of the things that might still be there is a weapon or ammunition. So it's better if it's not in Mr. Zimmerman's possession at all. So you'll have to have a third party go to the residence with law enforcement in order to get your personal possessions that may remain there. Ms. State Attorney, anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Judge, regarding that condition, Mr. Zimmerman would prefer to go there himself. Obviously, he would be accompanied with several law enforcement officers. He would not be touching any of the weapons or the ammunition. I'm not sure that there is another person in this area that can accompany him to retrieve some of his personal belongings. So he is asking the court if he would be allowed to go there himself.
No, I think it's somebody else doing this. I really do. This is a volatile situation, potentially. So I'm going to leave that as a reasonable condition of bond.
And Judge, excuse me, I'm sorry, yes. Regarding the impact monitor is that the court took notice that he is indigent. We're asking the court to either reduce or waive the cost of that device.
Oh, wait,